Hey, this is Craig. This is a Rohloff Speedhub. I've had this hub for about 5 or 6 years. It's worked great for me. But I've always wanted to know or have a look at what's inside, so just kind of take it apart and show all you what's going on inside. So first off, the hub came off of my giant BT full suspension mountain bike. There's the hub shell, and all you need to do to get the gear mechanism out is undo these bolts around the flange. You can pull the gear mechanism straight out. Just be careful of the paper gasket around the rim because it's pretty thin and easy to damage, and also make sure that none of your drive joints that connect the gear mechanism to the hub shell fall out when you're pulling the hub out. When you're going to pull the hub apart, make sure you got a rag to soak up all the oil, and so you can lay your parts out in order that you take them apart in, and you can just use basic tools to get it apart. Once I get it to this stage, all I need is a pick and a magnet, and I'll show you what the magnet's for later. These are the nylon drive pins, and there's 9 of them that fit in these pockets around the hub. Like I said, just make sure you take those out before you get started. They like to get lost on the garage floor, and it helps to have a blow up in front of you so you can see what you're doing. But we'll go ahead and get started. Now if you got the gear mechanism out of the hub, then you already got the sprocket off. That can be the hardest part. When you're taking off parts, always make sure you put them off the way that you took them off, or you put them down the way that you took them off, because a lot of things can get mixed up when you're putting it back together. So the only thing holding the hub together is this nut on the end, and to get that loose you'll need to clamp the axle plate in a vise and just use a wrench to break this loose. Mine's already loose, so I'll just spin it off. And once you spin this off, your hub will come right apart. So the first thing that you're going to pull off after that is the driver right here. That just slides right off. And there's a little shim in here that you want to pull out and set aside. And this is the driver that drives the first ring gear right here. You can see it's splined, fits in those splines. It's got 2 bearings back to back to handle all the stress from the sprocket. And the next part that comes off is the clutch spring, and this pushes the clutch plate into the first sun gear, and it locks the ring gear into a 1-to-1 ratio. And the next part that comes off is this clutch ring. It just slides right off. And you can see the clutch face right here. You can either drive or can freewheel. Next you want to take out the clutch sleeve, and this is what pushes the clutch into the sun gear right here. And you notice you can't slide it off. It's got a pin in here, and that's where the magnet comes in handy, because you can draw that pin out with the magnet. And once the pin's out, it just slides right off. Be careful, that pin can fall out of that sleeve, and it's pretty small, so you don't want to lose it. Next, Next thing that comes out is just a spacer washer. And you can go ahead and take your first ring gear off. And whenever you're taking off these large gears, there's always a shim in here. It's usually stuck on there with oil, so make sure they don't fall apart. You put them back in the right place. And next, you can take out the whole planet carrier here. It'll just slide straight off. And you'll see that 2 of the sun gears stay on the axle, and 2 of the sun gears come off inside of the planet carrier. And you can just pull these sun gears out. And the first sun gear has a clutch face on it. And the second sun gear is smaller and doesn't have a clutch face. In the planet carrier, you can take this apart. There's also a shim on the bottom. So put that shim in order. But anyway, you can take this planet carrier apart by just pushing the pins out, like so. But I'm going to leave mine together. And next, you'll take out the next sun gear. And the last sun gear, which is also has a clutch face on it, as you can see. And this clutch face is exactly the same as the first one, in that it locks ring gear 2 into a 1-to-1 ratio. And next, you got another washer, spacer. And you got another clutch ring here. And this is the one that goes with that other sun gear that we just took out. So you can see how those work. And next, you can pull out the silent ring. Just a little washer, or not a washer, but a little rubber O-ring. And then next we got a ring gear 2 that we can just slide right off. And sun gear 3 will come with that, and this is the sun gear that does the reduction. So if this is going 1-to-1 with the planets right here, then you're getting gears 8 through 14. But if this is reducing within these planets, you get gears 1 through 7. You can just pop the sun gear out. Another washer, spacer, shim. Another clutch spring. And then you can pull the output planetary carrier out. Another shim on the bottom. And same deal as the first planetary carrier. You can take this apart if you want to, but there's no real reason to. And next we got another clutch ring, and this particular one locks ring gear 3, and if this clutch is in use, you're in gears 8 through 14. So just pull that clutch ring right off. And then next, there's another clutch ring, and this one has a clutch face on two sides and a spline to lock into ring gear 3. And then you can pull off ring gear 3. And there's two shims stacked on each other in there. And you can pull out the axle claw ring, and these tabs actually lock into the axle to prevent ring gear 3 from turning when you're in gears 1 through 7. And the last thing on here is another clutch ring, and this is the clutch ring for gears 1 through 7. And there's a collar on here that's locked to the main axle shaft inside of here, the shifting shaft. So you can't take it off unless you draw it out with a magnet like the first one I showed you. But yeah, so basically this ring will push down to disengage the clutch, or it'll release and let the clutch engage, depending on what gears you're in. And that's about it for that.